Hello. I want to continue with my videos talking about how can we undo that damage that had been done to us when we were little children or babies. So how can this type of pain be dissolved? I have dealt with it my whole life, 49 years. It was a rough and rocky path that I walked, the pathless path. It was very, very difficult with lots of ups and downs. And I finally feel like I found the ideal way of dissolving the emotional pain. So I've done all kinds of things. I've done primotherapy for over 10 years. I've done numerous psychoanalytical talk therapies. I did a psychoanalysis when I was a child for 2 years, twice a week. I met all kinds of different people on my journey, different therapists, and found all kinds of different religious figures whose book I read, and so many different things. I read numerous books in the subject: psychology, healing, self-empowerment, and so on. And I already mentioned a lot of those in my other videos, but I can't mention all of them. But I can tell you about these main stepping stones. Some of them were just stepping stones that got me from A to B, or that got me across the bridge, basically. But then there are other stepping stones that are very solid foundations for healing themselves, and where you can't go wrong at all. So primotherapy was a stepping stone for me. It was absolutely necessary for me, I think, to go through this, at least at that time, when I was 26. I read Dr. Arthur Janoff's books. They made perfect sense, and at that time he was still the director at the center, and things were working out very well, and we were dissolving our emotions, and they were flowing. They were no longer stagnated. It was amazing to watch people go through their emotional healings and dissolving all of that stuff that was hardened before. And but there was one thing missing even while he was there. What was missing was the self-empowerment part. That is the most important thing. Without that, we can't function at all in our lives. A lot of people they dissolved the pain, and then they didn't know how to go from there, because they dissolved some of the pain in a lot of tears, which is important, some important process. And Arjanov made sure that we are not acting that out or reacting it, or getting into some kind of forced states or hysteria, but to be really in that feeling zone, and to allow the body in its natural flow to deal with it and to dissolve it. And a brilliant man. But what was missing was the self-empowerment that Tony Robbins is emphasizing. And so what happened after Arjanov left is things got out of alignment in the center, because the people that were left over to handle the situation. They were not that knowledgeable about the process, how to observe this, how to intercept if it was necessary, when people were reacting, when people were acting out, when people were getting into very destructive lifestyles. They kind of like squeezed both eyes closed. For example, Arjanov did not allow smoking. He said, you need to quit all of this in order to heal. After he left the center, was no longer the director after he retired, then things got out of control because of all of these things. They allowed people to continue their destructive life cycles, drinking, smoking, acting out with all kinds of things that were distracting, that were actually that were covering up what was really going on, because they didn't want to deal what was really going on underneath. And in the course of this, 2 people committed suicide. In not too much of a time span in between. I think it was like a year in between when these people died. And I've known those people quite well. For me, it was an incredible shock, and I was absolutely horrified, and I felt so deeply sorry and also guilty. I felt like I should have been there for them, although they weren't really my direct friends. But I felt like I should have been there, And so when Mary died, they had kicked me out of the center because I wasn't taking my medication. If I had been there at that time, I could have helped her, because I would have seen what was going on. I would have done anything to help her. I would have become her partner if that was necessary. I would have let her live in my house. I would have done all kinds of things. I would have held her. I would have, even though I'm not gay, I would have done everything to help her, because what a precious woman, my age. And we were both at that time, I think 30, 29, something like this. And she was in a relationship with a woman, and the woman dumped her in a really mean way. And if I had seen that in group session, I would have taken her under my wing, for sure. I felt so absolutely terrible that an artist like Leonardo da Vinci, she was drawing unbelievably brilliant. The way she was drawing horses, just like Leonardo da Vinci. I'll never forget that. And what a terrible, terrible thing, What a horrific loss for humanity. For me, it was clear, it was becoming clear, more and more clear, that primal therapy, the way it was heading, wasn't going in the... And I'm not blaming these people at the center. They just didn't know better. They just didn't know how to handle the situation. So a therapy like this has to be handled with utmost care, particularly a therapy that deals with the very deep emotions. And there were so many components missing in this therapy. That's why I finally realized more and more it isn't going anywhere. It wasn't going anywhere for me either anymore. And so that's when I met my husband, and after he found out what this is all about, I've taken him to the center. He's seen everything from every angle. He saw me, how I was after those emergency sessions. So he was able to yank me out of there, basically. So I finally left the center. I decided I need to do something with my life. We gotta do something. We have to figure out a way to build ourselves up. And so we decided we're gonna rent out the guest house. We decided to start with this. It's a very simple start. And I told the people in the center, and Franz Jonoff said to me, you want to make money without working for it. That was the last time I talked to her. And I said, what do you mean? Every time you make money, you're working for it, and particularly when you're fixing up a house or guest house. We wanted to do this for the future too. We thought we could do it because my husband is a handyman, and he also can do electric lines, and he's taken classes at the college for electroengineering, and so he's capable of doing all of this by himself. And I thought, what better way than to fix up, an old guest house, or in the future get an old house and fix that up. So, and I would be assisting him as much as I can as a lay person, basically. And she said, why do you want to make money without working for it? That is ultra hard work. But what I like about it is that you're your own boss. You don't work for someone else. You're on your own. You can distribute your own time and efforts into it. And when you're not feeling good, you don't work. You take a break and you go slowly, step by step. You can't do that when you're working for someone else. So that's a very important point in healing and empowerment. You also need a lot of sleep. And I couldn't have had this if I was working for anybody else and enslaving myself just to take what I earn and put it right back into primotherapy, so that she can have her lavish lifestyle. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to come across as harsh or anything. I love her. I love all of these people. I wish them the very best for their lives. It's just that I observed that the reasoning was not accurate from her and from other people too there, and they were not seeing things the way they really are. And when people have unresolved emotions and they're stuck in it, no therapist has fully ever dissolved everything. It's like the enlightened person who is now like a god. That doesn't work ever. We're always on our path to heal. We're never stopping. We're never on a plateau where we can fully rest now for good. It's always a continuous healing path. There'll always be things that somebody learns later on. It doesn't matter how old they are or how experienced they are. They will never learn everything, because there'll always be new people that have new problems, that have new complications and new things that we haven't seen before. And so it's always an more and more exploring that is going on. Okay, within ourselves as well. And that's okay. But when a therapist is stagnated and is stuck, when the therapist is not moving forward, then he or she is not able to help the people anymore. Then things like blaming comes in. The blaming is going to be probably one of the first act-outs that will come up. When someone is stuck, blaming happens very quickly. Blaming of the client, even the client who's there paying his savings to them. The client who's there, helpless, standing in front of them, help me please. They're blaming the client. That's a real severe mistake. You don't want to ever do something like this when you are in the business of healthcare, therapy, etc. Never, ever, ever blame your client. It's a severe, drastic mistake that can end up in death, particularly in something like primotherapy or rebirthing or those. That's a very dangerous therapy, rebirthing. I don't ever recommend that to anybody. But I also don't recommend primotherapy anymore to anyone. Primotherapy is a flawed therapy concept. The entire concept is flawed. It has aspects that are very vital and important, but these aspects alone will not help people. It wasn't even helping enough when Arjanov was there himself in the beginning. So people even died during the 70s. John Lennon was ultimately also the victim of primotherapy in a roundabout way. So, and people got shot and all kinds of things happened because of primotherapy that was not, they were not that informed in the 70s at all. So in the 90s they knew a lot more, but it was still not working fully, and the concept itself is very lopsided. So you have to have, and the absolute emphasis of a therapy has to be self-empowerment or the empowerment of other people. Like a therapist has to live for building up his client, not pulling him down. So that's the absolute emphasis. Never blame, never accusations, never anger, and never insinuations. Insinuations is always something that comes from the person who insinuates from his or her own emotions that have not been dissolved, from his or her fears and paranoia that they interpret in other people. Lots of projections. It goes all the way to psychosis and schizophrenia, and the feeling of being persecuted or ganged up on. So those are feelings that are very severe. Somebody with feelings like this should never be a therapist. So as long as they are stuck in something like this, they can never help someone else. This is very important. So after my husband yanked me out of primotherapy, he gave me a book, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And I thought, wow, that looks awful infomercial-like and kind of tacky, and the kind of stuff I would never pay any attention to when I see it. If I see that on TV, I would zap right through, right past it. So this has never appealed to me, something that appears commercial and like very money driven, very corporate. But I had to stop, look and listen, as Henry Rollins always said. And I had to pay very close attention to what Tony Robbins was talking about in his book. And I did, because I decided I don't have anything to lose, really. So why not look at it the way it is and see if there is anything in it that could be beneficial for me. And the whole concept is beneficial. If we ignore the fact that the outside packaging, the corporate type of packaging, but what's inside is absolutely vital. People called me a sucker. I was a sucker in primotherapy. I could have bought a house in Malibu and a Rolls Royce for that money. But with Tony Robbins, I certainly was not a sucker. I didn't go to his seminars. Yeah, you can spend a lot of money on his seminars. But I got the book. My husband gave me the book, and then I bought his audio tapes, 30-day audio tapes. How much did I pay? Like, how much was it? Like $100 or $200? You know, I listened to this for years, for like over 10 years. It was definitely worth it. I really studied this in depth, and I got a lot out of it. I got so much. There are so many approaches in Tony Robbins' approach, so I recommend Tony Robbins to everybody. I mean, it's definitely worth it. His books, his audio tapes, his CDs, his video programs. I totally recommend. I recommend you going to do a seminar in the Fiji Islands with him, you know, if you have the money. So definitely, I would do it right away if somebody would pay for it. I mean, it's awesome. Must be awesome to go swimming with Tony Robbins after you eat breakfast and do yoga and breathing techniques and do amazing affirmations. And so what struck me the most in Tony Robbins' book, and in the I think he talks about it in his book, but I think where I heard him talk about it is his audio tapes. He was talking about a seminar that he was giving somewhere in California, I think it was, in a large auditorium, and he was on stage talking about self-affirmations and empowerment. And there was a lady in the front, somewhere in the front row, and he said he wanted her to come to the stage and talk about her story. And a very overweight woman who, I forgot, somewhere to 50 or something, and she was talking about how she's pulled all her hair out because she has this OCD tic of pulling her hair out in order to cover up pain, some emotional pain underneath. So she pulled her whole wig off, and she showed that she had no hair underneath. So it was starting to grow back, but very, very like almost no hair, very short, thin hairs that were growing back. And she said she just kept on pulling her hairs. As soon as they get big enough and thick enough, she pulls them out. And she said that it is very, very painful for her to deal with what happened in her past, and she told the story of her dad molesting her and what it did to her, what it did to her self-esteem, and it is unbelievably cruel for a person to do something like this. You know, I know men have a lot of urges and stuff like that, but to let these urges out on innocent children is not just torture, but it will ruin the person's life completely. So I want people to keep this in mind if they have any empathy at all, not to destroy your daughter's or your son's life or your protegee's life, whoever that is. If it's a pastor in the Catholic Church, you know, you're gonna ruin that person's life if you touch them inappropriately or if you send your lusting energies to that child. So how to heal these wounds? And I'm speaking to the molester as much as I speak to the molested. We can all heal ourselves. There are ways for all of us to heal ourselves and to become a compassionate, empathetic, loving person. It is possible to do it, no matter where somebody is. You can do a complete U-turn wherever you are. It is possible. So this lady at the stage at the Tony Robbins seminar, she cried and she said she is there because she doesn't know how to move on from there. Her life is a complete disaster and she's suffering every day. She has very few friends, she has no boyfriend, and it is very difficult for her to deal with everything. No real support and everything. So Tony Robbins, he said, I want you to empower yourself. I want you to say to yourself that I am a beautiful person inside, and I can become very beautiful. I'm also beautiful on the outside. I'm just overweight. I just only pulled my hair off, which makes me not so appealing in this moment. But I can change that. I can lose weight. I can run. I can let my hair grow back. I can become very, very beautiful. So to say that to yourself, and to say I'm beautiful on the inside. I'm a worthy person. I can do things. I can love. I can give. Okay? And so he told her to say this, and then he told her to say this quietly inside of her head, and to do this affirmation, and to stand up straight while she's doing this. Then he asked people in the audience to call her names. So when they called her names, he wanted her to do the internal affirmations again, and stand up strong. And she did this. And then he said to her, now tell the audience how you feel about yourself. So she said to the audience, I may look ugly on the outside, but inside of here is a beautiful, precious human being who can love, who can give, who has everything, who is shining, a shining star. And when she said that, her entire system, all of that pain was flowing, really flowing through. And there was no more stagnation. And that is what Arjanov also calls the primal zone, when we're really there in that flow. So, and she was really flowing and feeling this. There's something that I feel in my solar plexus when I think about the scene. Something that touches me very deeply. We don't have to be offstandish. We don't have to stand up and shout at someone in self-defense, or we don't have to be mean back to anybody if they give us hatred. We don't have to give them love either, but we can stand up strong and tall, and we can say the truth. And the truth is, I am precious. I am a precious living being. I am worthy of love. And it feels so super and so empowering and so true and so alive and flowing and loving towards all of us. That is the path. And that's also the path in the Vipassana meditation by S.N. Goenka. That is that same energy. That is the same flow of true loving emotions. The same flow. I am precious. Everybody is precious. I am sending my love to everybody. May all living beings, that's what the Buddha said, may all living beings equally much be happy, healthy, and content. And so this is the path to true healing. This is so incredibly important. I am also telling myself as I make these videos, and when I re-watch my videos, when I don't feel good and I watch my video again, it will confirm this, again what I have recorded, what I have seen before in other people's videos, in the meditation videos, and Tony Robbins and so on. So it is very important. It's like these videos are also like a self-affirmation for me. So when I feel really bad, I can go back to the video and go, ah yeah, I've already felt this way. I've already reached this level of understanding. I can come back to that level. So if I ever get angry at somebody and feel really bad, and that happened so many times in my life. I thought I'd moved ahead, and then I find myself hating again and building up incredible tension to the point where I thought I couldn't take it anymore. Elliot Rodger-like. I would never hurt anybody, but I understand what happens, what builds up in people. I understand the kind of frustration and anger and loneliness that builds up. This feeling of, this feeling of total despair, where you feel cornered like a deer who's just kicking out and just rage taking over. And there are many people like this. Just recently happened again. That's why I made the video yesterday. So, and that's why I'm talking about what can we do, what kind of solutions are out there to address and to try out for ourselves. There are many solutions, many. There are many things that we have to do simultaneously, and the more of those holistic steps we take, the more they work in synchronicity towards our goal, forward. So juicing, raw food, raw plant food, no more animal products, no more meats, no more dairy, none of this. This clogs your arteries, it causes horrific heart deformations, and clogs the heart valves, and people will undergo heart surgery and all of this. It's not necessary. This can all dissolve by itself right away. Even if somebody has heart problems, you have to drink a whole lot of cayenne pepper mixed into water. Drink that down, even if it burns. It will save your life. There are people talking about it on YouTube. There are several different people. Dr. Bernard Jensen is the forefather of this knowledge of particularly cayenne pepper, the amazing magic of this plant, what it does, how it heals. And then the complete detoxing with the plant juices. And flaxseed oil unclogs your system. It's a very light oil. It's a non-saturated oil. It will dock onto the molecules will dock onto the other fats that are the animal fats that are very hard and they repel water. So this one will dock onto those hard fats and bring them out of the body. It flushes it out. It dissolves it. So you can try that for yourself. If you have, for example, if you have butter, a piece of butter in a cup, and you put flaxseed oil onto it, it will dissolve the butter into a liquid. And so the same thing happens in the body. The hardened fats that sediment themselves into the blood vessels, which ultimately clog the blood vessels. Very dangerous. The flaxseed oil will unclog that. It will kind of like, it will unclog a pipe the same way. It will unclog your inner pipes, your inner blood vessels. And another thing is very good is sodium bicarbonate, like a spoonful a day in a cup of water, or diatomaceous earth clay. It's in powdered form. The food grade is very good for animals and people, like a tablespoon a day, mixed into water, and then put it into the dog food, mix that up a little bit. Also put once in a while put a leaf or two of ivy shredded into the dog food, mix that in. Very, very beneficial for the joints. And ivy is also very good for us to make tea with it. And so and dandelion and daisy and blueberry and huckleberry, very good for people with diabetes. And it can't be taken every day, but like intermittently for like you drink the tea for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then you take a break and you do so, because it has tannins in it, which can be an irritant to the bladder. But taken for 2 weeks, it's perfectly fine. It can heal the bladder. But then you take a break, then you go to a different herb that doesn't have tannins in it, and so we have to do these kind of like rotation cures, with herbs. And we need to know more about the herbs. We need to know what kind of components are in it, what it does to the body, the kind of effects it has. And the information is all out there on the internet for everybody to read and study. And I recommend to people to really spend their time with these kind of things and not rely on other people for healthcare advice. And it's what also S.N. Goenka said, and it's what the Buddha said, it's what Jiddu Krishnamurti said. Don't just take other people's words for it, experiment it, find out for yourself. Experience it. Experience. How does it feel like? For example, if you have a guru and he's telling you all kinds of things, and so instead of just taking the word for it and just repeating his mantras and his rituals or whatever for that specific religion, go within and find out how does it really feel. I have a friend, Kate. She told me that she got more into the Christian religion a long time ago, and because she needed some advice and felt like she needed a support group and people to help her conquer difficult phases in her life and so on. So, but she said, but she was attentive. She is an intelligent woman. She was very attentive, and she introspected, and she asked questions like, wow, I feel like, she paid attention to herself. She felt like, this doesn't make me feel good. This doesn't make me feel empowered. This doesn't make me feel like I'm my own person, like I'm worthy. Matter of fact, this Christian religion makes people become drug addicts because they feel unempowered. They feel more and more like they are not in charge of their own lives. They make people dependent, sort of, and that's the opposite of empowerment. So she finally got out of it, and she decided this isn't getting her anywhere. It was just making her really, really depressed. And I've seen many other people the same way. And a lot of people are not conscious like she is. A lot of people, they just continue this because they don't know where else to go to. They don't want to be on their own. They're too afraid to be on their own. So, but we have to be on our own if we want to empower ourselves. Each person is their own guru. There is no guru for you. I'm sorry. You have to be your own guru. You have to experience for yourself. How does this feel? How does that feel? Try it out. If it doesn't feel good, listen to yourself. If it doesn't feel good, it's not going to be good for you in any way. Okay? If it feels good, if it feels empowering, if it feels like, oh, this person sees me, recognizes me for who I am, like the bears at Earthfire Institute. They feel seen, they are felt, they are recognized for who they are, as precious, precious, precious light beings. And they heal themselves from all the trauma that happened to them. The mother was probably shot, and they were orphans, and they were rescued, and they were loved, deeply loved, like like the people's own child. They love that bear like their own children, and more. And this is so important. So, and when I see the face of that bear, how he's just like a little boy. He's trying things out, and he's so enthusiastic about life and about exploring. That's a state of happiness, of joy. When we're not in that state, it is very difficult for us to imagine being in that state. So when I'm depressed, it's very difficult for me to ever believe that I could ever reach that state of joyful inquiry, like exploration and asking questions. When I was a child, my mother said, "You don't ask any questions. You're not interested in anything." How could I have been interested in anything other than basically the psychogram that was the stuff that was reflecting that what was on the inside of me? Horror films is the only thing that interested me, because it reflected that what was going on inside. So, and that happens to so many people. When we're in a state of depression, we will be attracted to the stuff that reflects that what is going on, that is the daily struggles that are going on in our brains. So we will always gravitate to that stuff because we feel like, yeah, we already know that kind of stuff. So Tony Robbins' approach is to try out the opposite. Try this out, just and in baby steps. We can't all of a sudden say to ourselves, like on the scale at Esther Hicks from 1 to 22, we can't, when we're at 1, total unempowered, we can't be reaching 22 and doing an affirmation saying, "I'm totally empowered," because we're not. We can only go incrementally up. So that the scale of Better Feeling Thoughts by Esther Hicks is very, very powerful. This ties right into what Tony Robbins is teaching. So a lot of other things I don't agree with her. Okay, she has a very corporate approach. I don't know whether this is a corporate move or whether this is just what is the law of attraction itself. I have no idea. I just know that the scale of Better Feeling Thoughts from 1 to 22 is a very important teaching, because when we are at one of the lower levels or the lowest levels of unempowerment, of feeling total helplessness, of being overwhelmed, then we can only reach for the very next better feeling thought. Okay, and from there we can reach for the very next better feeling thought. We can only go up incrementally, like on a ladder. You can't step from the first ladder step to the highest at once. You have to really go incrementally. This is very, very important. You cannot skip any step. So when you're totally unempowered, you have to reach to the very next level, the very next question to ask, or the very next affirmation to make. So the very next better feeling thought. It's like from when you're totally unempowered, you say to yourself, or when you're really feeling bad, what can you say to yourself to feel a little bit better? I can say, well, I'm unempowered right now, but I can make myself a cereal to eat. I can make myself an oatmeal that tastes really, really good. So that would be one little step better feeling thought. Instead of saying, I'm going to reach for the whiskey. Okay? So the whiskey is not the better feeling thought. But an oatmeal is. I used to buy myself bags of candy, which was my step of better feeling thought. At that time, I didn't know better. But candy just makes things worse and worse. It's a food addiction. It causes us, it has really bad side effects. It causes us to get sick. So it's bad for the nervous system, for the brain cells. It's really, really bad, white sugar. So yeah, but if we say, okay, I can make myself an oatmeal with honey in it or with organic maple syrup from Eden Foods or something, you know, and fantastic company. And I can cook that in the coconut oil from So Delicious, and or with the Care of Eden soy, or with the Pacific soy milk, with the hazelnut flavor. You know, one of those tastes fantastic, really, really great milk substitute. I talked about it yesterday. So we can do this, and we can feed ourselves with this, and it tastes good, and it feels warm and loving. So those kind of steps, okay, and then we can say, and then we're at the second level, and we can say, so what do I need to say to myself to get to the third level? From there, what do I need to say? Can I say something nice about somebody who has maybe disappointed me in the past? It's how can I feel better about the person? And so if you can't find anything, then at least you can have, maybe you can feel angry about that person. That's still on the very, that's an emotion that's on the very first levels of on that scale. It's a very unempowering emotion still, the anger, but the anger has saved people's lives. It has saved people from the first level on that scale. It has saved them. So if you can, that's what I find very excellent about Esther Hicks, that she said the anger is a better feeling than the total unempowerment. But you don't want to stay there, of course. It can cause sickness too, anger. It can cause liver and gallbladder problems, very severe. I got it because I experienced that. So every time I'm angry, even if I eat well, oh, I feel my gallbladder, you know. And I'm not going to have a gallbladder operation. My gallbladder is still quite clogged up and quite toxic, but as I'm eating better and I'm not putting animal food into my body anymore, it is dissolving. All the toxins and the fats are dissolving in it and healing. It is healing the tissue. The fresh squeezed apple juice from your own tree will heal the cells, the tissue inside of those cleansing organs, liver and gallbladder. They are there to cleanse your body. They do a lot of working all the time. Don't overload it. This is very important. If you overload it, you make yourself sick, very, very sick. So you can cleanse that, you can heal the entire tissues of it, the cells that they're made out of can be completely purified and healed and renewed and be totally functioning again. Okay? There's no need for operations. There's a doctor who used to do gallbladder operations. He found Dr. Scholz's method, and because he's not a corporate doctor, he's an open-minded doctor, he started to apply these cure packages from Dr. Scholz, from the herbalist Dr. Scholz. And the people, they started to heal their livers and gallbladders. Like in 4 weeks, it was all healed. They were already signed up for operations to have the gallbladder removed, or they had their liver removed, or waiting for a liver transplant, something. You don't want to live like this. You don't want to live on a list waiting for a liver transplant. You don't want to live with someone else's liver. That's worse than Hannibal Lecter. That is worse than the worst horror movie out there. That is hideous. To live with someone else's organ inside of you, or someone else's blood. That's horrific. I would feel invaded. I would feel like alien resurrection or something. You don't want something terrible like this to happen to you ever. So cleanse your own organs, you know. And today they're even growing your own tissue in petri dish so you can grow your own heart again in a petri dish and have that put in. But why go through this unbelievably gruesome operation? Why not grow it yourself back to the normal state, right? So, and all you need is a juicer. Sell your TV, as Dr. Scholl's always said. Get rid of this junk entertainment. Get rid of the stuff you really don't need, all the vanity stuff. You get rid of. Don't get the silicone implants. Okay, get a juicer. You know, boobs will grow even a couple of sizes if you get healthy, wholesome nutrition into your body. So Dr. Schultz talks about it, and also if you allow emotions to flow, Dr. Arthur Janov talked about it. Women have said that their breasts have grown a size or two. So give that a chance and love yourself. Love yourself the way you are. Whether you're flat-chested or big-chested, it doesn't matter, or in between. Or whether the breasts are sagging or not sagging. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Your dog does not care about that. Your dog loves you the way you are. Listen to him. He's your teacher. He's your guru. He knows. He knows what true love is. Yeah. Even if the people you're friends with may not know, or may be very unconscious about it. Or if your boyfriend says you have to have this body like this movie star, that. Yeah. So don't listen to those people. Listen to the true guru. It's your dog. The animals out there. They know what true love is. So love yourself the way you are. Very, very important. That's a very important step to healing and empowerment. And say no to breast surgery. Say no to drugs. Say no to superficial parties and these totally detached people. Say no to this. Say yes to the nerd next door. Say yes to the dorky guy. Say yes to the techie brain that you normally feel like you have nothing in common with. It's better to have a loving techie brain friend than a James Bond guy. I mean, but even Piers Morgan is a ultra loving guy. You know, people don't even know he just played this terrible dandy character. So it's a real loving guy, an amazing guy. He loves whales. He does activism for the whales. People don't even know that. So, and he also happens to look like top-notch, what every woman wants in her life. So, but don't be so picky, you know. If you don't have a Piers Morgan around you, then did I say Piers Morgan? If I meant Piers Brosnan. I meant Piers Brosnan. Sorry, Piers Morgan. No, but Piers Morgan is really good looking too. So, sorry.
Who's Piers Morgan?
Piers Morgan is the guy on, the guy who was against guns. The guy who was speaking out for gun control. Remember the guy from England who got so much under fire? And when I say the name Piers, then I mix these two last names up all the time. But they're both really good looking, really, really, really good looking, and they're both really, really, really caring. Okay. But Piers Morgan is a talk show host, and Piers Brosnan was the James Bond that all the women were after. So both of them are extremely caring and loving, and so if you don't have either one of them available in your neighborhood, you take the dorky techie brained guy, you know, the computer geek who lives next door, who doesn't have muscles, who sits there on a computer and might be skinny and lanky or whatever. Okay? Take him if he is a caring, kind-hearted guy. You want somebody in your life who is supportive of you. Not the repetition of your stepdad who slapped you around and raped you. You don't want the repetition of that. You want to you don't want the homeostasis anymore, the horror movie type of seeking. You want to go try it out at least. try the geeky guy, the good-hearted guy, you know. Pay attention. He has to be really good-hearted, you know. The geeky guy could also have some terrible problems, psychological. You don't know. You test these people out, whether they're good-looking or bad-looking. Test them out for what's inside. Test them out for their brain, for their loving ability. That's what matters. You want to be safe in your life, you know. And same goes for men, you know. Don't go for the bitch. Why go for the bitch? I'm a bitch sometimes, but I'm a kind-hearted bitch. So with me is, if you're my friend, I will stick up for you. I will do all kinds of things for you. Okay, to support you, to love you, to give you everything. Go with those type of people. You know, that's important. You know, people who you can count on, people who are reliable, not drugged up people. Drugged up people are not reliable. That's just because of the drugs themselves. Drugs make people unreliable. Okay, so lots of steps to take. You know, lots and lots of steps. If you're poor, there are millions of steps to take still. If you're rich, you can do even more. But if you're rich, you can go to Tony Robbins seminar. You can go to India and attend these amazing large ceremonies of Vipassana. And you can go around the globe. You can meet the Dalai Lama. You can meet all kinds of interesting people. So, but if you're poor, you can also do a lot of things. The Vipassana meditation course is free for everybody. It's a 10-day course. It's free of charge. If you want to give a donation, but only if you want to, you can do this at the end of the 10-day course. If you don't want to give a donation, then don't give it. That is an emphasis for them. So if you're living in a destructive relationship or situation, like with roommates that are not respectful towards your needs, that steal your stuff or take your stuff or move things or not respect your boundaries, then you have to get out of that situation. This is very, very important. Or you have to speak up for yourself. Don't holler at the other person. I holler sometimes because I get very angry when I'm disrespected, and that is why I do the Vipassana meditation, because I want to heal myself so that I do not get angry anymore, so that I can talk to the other person in a normal voice and say to that other person, respect my boundaries, without saying, respect my boundaries. You know, it's like, it's a difference between it's a difference between hollering it and saying it in a normal voice. So I'm still working on it. My husband just did something that made me really mad. So, but I'm learning as I go. You can see that I am in the learning process myself. So it is very difficult, particularly when you have two different brains. So at least with my husband, I know that his general idea about living with me is based on kindness and love, and that's why I'm with him. He just has a very different brain, and he processes things differently. He does not understand so much the way I work, what I need, what I want, and makes it very difficult. But you have to speak up for your needs. This is very important, very, very critical. And when you are living, a lot of people that I have met that have been living in very destructive relationships with other people, whether it's other family members or spouses or boyfriends or whatever, or girlfriends sometimes too can be mean. So if people are very destructive to the other person, then that person, the victim person, has to leave that situation. It's very important. Take your animals with you. Very, very important. And this applies particularly to battered women. Take your animals with you. Your animals and your children. Do not leave them behind, because a violent person does retaliate against you on innocent beings. They do not know better. They do not understand that the concept of compassion. Okay? And that's why it is so important that we teach compassion, and that as many people as possible attend the Vipassana meditation, because it is the deepest compassion meditation that exists. And when we do this, when people, the most violent criminals have done it, and they got into that metta, the metta bhavana, the bodhicitta, the soft spot within themselves, and the tears were flowing. There was no more resentment that was flowing out. It was that deep touch, that I talked about with that lady at the Tony Robbins event. So when she talked about how she can empower herself, when she said, I am precious on the inside. So that's where we want to go to that space, to that realm within ourselves. That's where everybody needs to go to. No matter how detached somebody is, they can make a U-turn right now, and they can go to this soft spot within themselves. They don't know anymore at all the concept of respect towards life in general, their own hand, their own cells, someone else's cells, the cells of another species, so they're detached. And that also applies to the white-collar criminals, like I've talked about many times. People who will do slander campaigns and advertisements for exploitational corporations. They don't respect themselves. They're totally detached. They live in a completely detached life. Somebody who is becoming aware little by little, who is starting to feed themselves, they will immediately also little by little become aware of the needs of others. Okay, so life is one matrix. Okay? It is not. We're not separate. We're not separated from the tree behind us, or the forest, or the roses, or the birds, or the dogs. We're not separated from any of them. It's one infinite matrix of life, of existence. This is not philosophical spinning. Okay? This is the truth. Okay? We are all in this together. Okay? If you are detached to someone else and do something terrible or something unthoughtful towards someone else, you're also in the same time not thoughtful towards yourself. That's why, for example, eating dairy products literally breaks our hearts. Even if people don't feel the connection to the cows, and the baby cow separated from the mother, and they're screaming, and even if they don't know about it, or if they don't seem to care, or if they're totally detached in that moment and they just want to get this milk product or this ice cream or whatever. So they are breaking their hearts with it physically, but they are also breaking their hearts emotionally, because deep down is still the child, deep down is still the true us, ourselves, our body cells. They don't like that at all. They don't feel like this is a harmonious situation. They know there's wisdom in their own self. So we need to listen to our own wisdom. Take care.